Support for 100 Watts in a Wire is provided by Bioenno Power. If you're looking for a power solution, check out Bioenno Power, offering the best performance lithium phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bioennopower.com. That's BIOENNOPOWER.com or contact dealers nationwide. LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. An LDG desktop tuner works automatically with nearly any station up to 1,000 watts. LDG Zero Power tuners are ideal for portable or mobile use, as they consume almost no current and can be powered by internal batteries that last up to a year. LDG tuners are backed by our 2-year fully transferable warranty and our legendary customer service, the best in the industry. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome, friends. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are watching or listening from. Welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian, and man, we got a guest today. I'm really excited. And we're going to, we may have to turn down if there's a YouTube on. Let me bring Ryan in, because if you're listening to your YouTube, Ryan, we might have to cut that down. But I'm going to bring him in here. There he is. See, I'm getting a little bit coming back. Do you have something open over there, Ryan? Like your YouTube?
I think that when I'm unmuted, when you speak, it comes out of my computer, but then it goes back through my mic.
Yeah, that's what's happening. I probably should have advised headsets, your headphones, but it's okay. We'll push through. Do you have headphones nearby?
I do, but I would have to go and grab them and connect them.
Why don't you grab them? That way you won't make yourself crazy. I can do that. You come back and I'll catch up with you. Looking forward to introducing everybody to this young innovator who is doing some things that are just mind-boggling. And while we have a moment, everybody's saying to themselves, where is he? Where is Sidecar Steve? Is it true that you have fired him in lieu of a smart young lady? And yes, it's true, but he's still like the cat is. He's got the key. I can't get the key from him. He lives too far.
Yeah, I'm just a bad dream that shows up every day.
Yeah, it's like you got to feed him. You got to cuddle. But welcome back. Did you get that? Is that a new purchase from Hawaii? There you go.
Yep.
Okay.
And here's a little bit just what it is.
Don't stand all the way up. We got young people around here.
Yeah, I know. But I have the same shirt for my grandson, Dean. So Tata and Dean have matching shirts. So I love it. When we're out cruising around, we'll be a pair. So
well, welcome back. We certainly missed you. We have so much to catch up on, and we'll do that in a little while after the news. And I know you're excited as much as I am to meet Ryan. So I'm going to bring him in here. I believe we got the headset sorted out. And let's meet Ryan Honary. Now, it's almost like I have to figure out where I want to start with you, because you're so accomplished. But I'll set it up a little bit and we'll go fill in some of the cracks. Around 2018, from 2018 to today, your life has really taken this sharp focus. And reading about you and learning about you, 2018, you see these wildfires happening in Northern California. The hills look like your home. And it set something off in you because you figured out that within amount of time, like 6 hours or so, this is kind of how people were being affected, killed, their homes were burning up. So in your mind, you decided to create an early detection network. And this is kind of like, and I know you've been studying STEM and things like that in your school, and this is a passion of yours. But let me bring you in here, and we can pick it up in 2018, and you can talk about the fires and how you were moved to start to develop this technology that would help firefighters.
So I'm gonna start first a little bit on why I even did this. So in November of 2018, the Camp Fire in California killed over 80 people and caused almost $19 billion of damage. And the wildfire problems are only getting worse because 6 of the worst wildfire years in the past history of California have happened in the past 10 years. And this is not just California, it's a global problem. You can look at the Amazon and Australia wildfires. In Australia, they estimate over 3 billion animals/insects might have been killed by those massive wildfires. I repeat, 3 billion. It's just heartbreaking. As you know, the problem with wildfires is that current solutions suffer from timeliness of response because either a human actually has to see the fire and call 911, or it has to go through weather satellites that are in space, which takes several hours. And these fires can travel at astonishing speeds of 10 to 15 miles per hour. So even 1 hour of early detection can make a massive difference so the fire can be contained before it becomes huge. Now I'm going to go on a little bit on how I did this. In early 2019, I thought of a network of sensors with wireless mesh networking that doesn't need any infrastructure such as Wi-Fi or power, and is designed to operate in remote and fragile environments. It can be deployed exactly at high-risk locations such as near high-voltage electric equipment of power companies, which enables early detection. Keep in mind that anywhere between 70 to 90% of wildfires are man-made, either intentionally, like arson, or unintentionally, an accident. So in many occasions, we actually know where high-risk locations might be. Now, to continue about my solution, the sensor network can communicate with a mobile app in real time. I have 3 types of sensors detecting the 3 main signatures of fire: heat, smoke, and flame, or infrared. I also have many meteorological stations that detect wind speed and direction, soil moisture, and so on. This can be used by the AI or artificial intelligence algorithms to predict the growth of the wildfire. I spent all of 2019 and 2020 developing the idea and creating a prototype network of sensors using a Raspberry Pi. I also did the Python coding on the Raspberry Pi. I also developed a mobile app using JavaScript, and in the summer of 2019, I spent time at the UCLA AI lab with a family friend who was a PhD student in AI and machine learning. I realized that by leveraging machine learning, I can predict how the fire might actually grow. So using a JavaScript API, I captured data from Google Earth regarding the California campfire and trained my models, and was ultimately able to predict the fire growth with more than 75% accuracy. And I also won a bunch of awards that ultimately led to the Navy research grant, but I'll stop here to see what other questions you might have.
Now, you may have questions in the chat as well. So that was a great setup. Thank you for that, Ryan. And I bet you people don't know about the grant that came. I mean, if you're reading about Ryan, maybe you do know about that, but he's got some interesting new partners now. The Navy research grant, that's over $100,000 for you to continue developing your plan, right?
The first phase we completed, we got a grant of a total of $150,000. And after winning the second phase, we got a total of around $1.6 million.
That's amazing. And you started a company called Sensory AI. What are some of your goals? You've got big goals. It's not like I want to just create this little thing. It's I want to save the environment. Talk more about that.
So my personal passion is leveraging technology to solve environmental problems and making our planet more livable for all humans and animals together. I feel really bad, particularly for animals, because they're really innocent and have no fault in this. However, us humans are still hurting them. And I feel that my duty is to help save these humans and animals and help our planet be a more livable and cleaner place.
All right, thank you for that. A question from our chat here asked if you're a ham, and the easy answer is not yet, but we'll be talking about that as we go over your amateur radio license and how this may help, and then maybe introducing you to all the technology that's been produced by the amateur radio community. I read something where you said that you find that it's a responsibility of your generation to take care of the environment. You want to talk about that some?
Yes, so my generation are the ones who will be affected most by these environmental problems. And once we grow up, and if we don't do anything about them, then they're only going to get worse and worse. Without our help, these environmental problems will become so bad to the point where they may even become unfixable. When I talk to people in my parents' generation, I feel a bit like they think of fixing these environmental issues as a luxury or an afterthought. But I think for my generation and for the sake of all humans and animals on our planet, it's going to be an existential issue.
Let's talk a little bit about this first thing you created in 2018. There's some technology that was around. You basically assembled your early wildlife detection. A lot of technical people here. Talk a little bit about how you stumbled upon this, or how you went through your thought process of how this could possibly work as an app, and maybe talk about how firefighters can use that app, or your thoughts as you went into making that.
So I had the idea that, as I said earlier, all current solutions suffer from timeliness of response. So I thought of the idea that if my detectors, once one detector detects a fire, it can transfer the information from detector to detector until it eventually reaches my mini meteorological station, since they're all connected with mesh networking. And my idea was to solve that timeliness of response problem while still making it low cost and easy to deploy. So once that information is transferred from detector to detector and eventually to the mini meteorological station, the mini meteorological station will then predict where the fire may grow and send a warning notification to anyone who owns the app. So it can just be an app on the App Store, and whoever is in the area of which the fire may grow, then they might get a warning push notification that there is a wildfire coming your way. And it could also send a notification to the app, say there's a firefighter owning the app, then they could see that the fire is going to grow this particular way, so that they can go and set up in that area so they could stop this fire from spreading, and then also have other firefighters, and they have more time to do this, other firefighters to go around and just put out the fire altogether.
We're talking to Ryan Honary, my new best friend and future boss. By the end of the hour, I will be working for Ryan. That's my personal goal for today. You would talk about your number one is fire detection of wildfires. You want to talk about some of the other areas that you're going into too, and namely like the gas leak detection or detection and things of that matter.
Yes, so this can be used for many different applications. It can be used for oil and gas refineries, for example. But are you asking like what we are currently?
Yeah, what you're working on. I know that you are working with wildfires, and that was your initial passion. And then I was going to talk about other areas of detection that you were going to study and try to develop the software or the platform.
So sensory AI we're currently working on 2 projects. There is we want to study the air quality impact of wildfires, and we also want to leverage drones for environmental disasters. Do you want me to go into a little bit more about those?
Yeah, I sure do. Go ahead.
Okay, so for studying the air quality impact of wildfires, we're going to look at PM 2.5 air pollution from wildfire smoke, because while the actual fire impacts thousands of people, the smoke impacts millions of people. PM 2.5 particulate matter, which is smaller than 2.5 micrometers, is so small that it can enter the bloodstream via the lungs, and it cannot be smelled or seen, and it can create a variety of health problems. In fact, A recent article by the Journal of Exposure Science and Environmental Epidemiology performed a study during the fires in August to September of 2020 in Reno, Nevada, and showed a direct link between exposure to wildfire smoke and a higher rate of COVID infection and a serious COVID symptoms. This is the topic of my, and by the way, this is the next topic of my blog article coming out next week. The research showed that, and I quote, a 10 microgram per cubic meters increase in PM 2.5 concentration in a 7-day average increased the COVID positivity rate by 6.3%. So I started work with some scientists at the Environmental Protection Agency to look at their smoke sensors and see if I can use the same machine learning models I developed for wildfire growth prediction to be used to predict the growth of the smoke. Now, for leveraging drones to prevent environmental disasters, we are interested in integrating a mobile sensor, or known as a drone, into our sensor network, which are currently fixed sensors. The drone can fly around and look at various equipment, and the machine learning algorithms can be trained to predict when certain equipment might need maintenance to prevent malfunctions and disasters. And this would enable the concept of predictive maintenance. Right now, maintenance is performed based on fixed schedules, and predictive maintenance is performed when a device or equipment actually needs maintenance. We believe that this could save the U.S. Navy, as well as electric companies and oil and gas companies, billions of dollars and prevent many environmental disasters.
Thank you for that. Now, do you want to touch on the clean water protection? I have so many questions. I was just filling out my job application. People are thinking I'm not telling the truth. I am coming to work for Ryan as soon as possible. And the big question is, how do you get your big brain into that head of yours? It's amazing, and I really am inspired by your work. Do you feel that you are behind the effort, like you're crunched against time? Like, people are looking at you and you're like 14 years old, right? And you're thinking in your mind, I have so much work that I need to do. Do you feel like you're behind in where you want to go?
So I'm 13, almost 14. I'm turning 14 on November 10th. And sometimes I do feel like it may be a lot of work. However, I just think to myself that I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm doing it for all of humanity and animals. Because as I said earlier, like specifically animals, they have no fault in this. However, they're still being greatly harmed because, for example, in the Australian bushfires, more than 3 billion animals and insects were killed, and that's just devastating. So whenever I may feel like this is too much work and I may need to tone it down, I just think of like the lives of animals and humans and how I really want to help them. And that's just a big motivator for me to keep on working and going and just to improve my project as a whole.
Can you talk a little bit about your plans for your education? Clearly, before 2018, you were in school. I'm sure you were doing STEM or STEAM programs. Maybe you could talk about your thoughts for your education and the importance of those sorts of programs to young people.
So I go to the Pegasus School in Huntington Beach, California, and it's a private school, and we take a couple of main classes plus electives. And one elective that I also took was the science fair elective. And this elective is somewhere where you get to go and work on your science project, and whenever you have a question on, for example, how to write in your journal or how to make a daily notebook, then you can go and ask the teacher that's working there. And that was also helpful because it got my ideas and thoughts wrapped around also like what judges are looking for. Science competitions also did that, but so did science fairs because I got information from a teacher who has had previous students gone through science fairs. So that was also a really good and useful elective. And I also took two classes at the Arden Academy, and one of them was a coding class, and that's where I learned most of my coding. And then another one was also a research class, and that's where I learned some very big ideas. Like I learned that I need to make a journal of my daily ideas. So basically, every single day after I was done working, I would go and write, all right, today I realized that this is a big problem in my project, and one way to solve this might be to do this. And then the next day I'll be like, all right, I got this working. However, I still can't get this part working. So it's like if someone reads through the journal, they can see your day-to-day process until you get to that science competition.
We talked about how busy you are and your big plans and how you're progressing on those as a 13-year-old. Let's talk about some of the things you like to enjoy your downtime. I don't want anybody here to think that you don't enjoy doing other things. I know you like music. I know you like sports. Let's talk about some of your extracurricular things that you like to do.
So I do love to play tennis. I think it's just a really fun way to get my energy out, and it's just a really fun thing to do in my free time. I also like listening to music. Also, I even listen to music when I work sometimes, even though some certain musics may be a little distracting. I like to use certain music to help me work. And I also play the guitar, so that's also something I love to do in my free time. It's just, I feel like music is just natural to my ears, and like I have to have it there. I also like to read, especially interesting books. It can be fiction or nonfiction, but especially nonfiction. I love reading about history and big events. I also like to go out and have fun, go out with my friends, maybe go to the park or something, play soccer. I like to socialize. I'm a social kid, and I like the feeling of having someone to talk to and communicate with and share my ideas with.
Well, that leads me to my next comment, because it sounds like you have a little bit of time for amateur radio. The amateur radio service and emergency communications and all that sort of preparedness fits right into your plan. So a soft pitch to you, Ryan, the elevator pitch to you is that there's a lot of innovative people that are into technology in the amateur radio service and hobby, and you're welcome to join us. I'd love for you to come back and periodically tell me. I won't understand it, but I will listen to you. I will give you the platform anytime you're ready to come. You can build. You can do whatever you want. Just let me know whenever you have a little bit of free time. Come back and teach us a little bit. And on behalf of everybody here, just to say we wish you the best. Thank you for what you're doing. You're really inspiring person, and long may you run. I hope that you get to just half of what you want to do in your life. But please keep in touch, okay?
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
As we say in amateur radio, 73, which came out of Morse code, that means best regards. And thanks to all your family and the people around you for helping us set this up. Take care of yourself, Ryan.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.
More contacts, less Alpha Hotels. This is 100 watts and a wire.
There are many ways to support the content you enjoy, and here is another. Visit 100wattsandawire.com and click the Shop tab. Here you can find all the latest designs from the classic 100 Watts and a Wire logo all the way till today. Men's, women, kids, and babies, we don't sell any of those. But we have apparel, gear, accessories, wall art, and cases. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click Shop, and support the content you enjoy. And thanks.
Made in America, shared worldwide. This is 100 watts and a wire.
Well, Lord have mercy. I think that my new best friend, we are going to make plans and go play some soccer or whatever, play guitar. I've got my guitar. I'll get that and hang out. What an impressive young man that is, and I'm so glad that he could be here with us. And it's time for us to bring in our news segment and bring in, oh no, what did I do? I didn't add this correctly. Let's go back here. Oh my, let's look at this. We'll sort this out. Don't you worry. Look, there comes Paul. Everything has changed. Oh, I've done it again.
I got no background.
I got no background. They're going to yell at me. I think I can fix it. But let me fix it as we talk. Karen, do you want to go first, and we can just talk about Ryan and how?
How do I follow?
Can I just say, Christian, that you knew how to do all this stuff before Ryan was on? Did that?
Well, I think he took it with
off?
him. I put so much energy into his piece.
We got to put him. Maybe he can fix it. Can you get him back?
Yeah, I want him to come back.
Maybe
I want him to be.
For you.
Let's see. Let me put this here. I know I can fix it. But anyway, if I click a button here and I move this up, no, it just hates me. Mm-hmm. It just hates me now. Please spend a minute talking about the future and how. There we go. This isn't exactly what you want. But
there we are.
That'll work.
Up against the wall. I'm up against the brick wall.
That'll work.
Boy.
Yeah, you're in a brick wall. It's penitentiary type of stuff here.
Oh, I knew I'd end up here one day. It's just a matter.
You're both chiming in now from the penitentiary, so behave yourself.
We're in the big house. We're in the big house. Paul.
I like this. I like this look for you guys. Super impressive guy. I couldn't even get into all of his accomplishments because it starts super young, and it starts with the help and guidance of your family and your teachers and all this sort of stuff. And he saw an issue and a place where he could maybe help. And he did it. And I think the money, he's got a $10,000 cash prize he won for his innovation on this early detection app. And that, it's nothing. The $150,000 from the Navy, looking back, moving on, just going. And I hope he finds some time to shred on that guitar a little bit.
You know what, though? Better than that, Christian, at age 14, he knows where Australia is. How many kids know beyond their front steps or care enough because it's something you haven't yet experienced in your life? I mean, he's very aware of the planet. He's very cool.
As I was mentioning, I remember myself at 14. No.
Yeah, like Don Wilbanks has once said, at this age, he was in the corner eating crayons. And I know, like, at 13, but the focus is super impressive. And I think as I hopefully can introduce him a little bit to our world, if he doesn't know about it already, the innovation that happens here, he'd fit right in, I guess, is the long and short of that conversation. But there you go. Well, this is the portion of the program where we do two stories. One is a headliner, the showstopper, and the other is something perhaps you did not hear about this week. And we'll start with Karen. Let's go over to, I'm going to switch this over and it better work. Let's see. Oh, there you are. Now you've got the newsroom behind you. What did you find? I'm going to be unplugging. You may be hearing a little bit of thunder. While you bring up this first story, I'm going to go ahead and unplug. So go ahead, Karen. You take it away.
All right. Just want to say, first of all, this story will be your cup of tea, which is a really bad pun, for a wonderful, fun, special event that's actually kicking off tonight at, in New York, it's 8 o'clock local time. It is 0000 UTC. There we go. The world's largest teapot. It is a 1-week special event that is celebrating this landmark in West Virginia. It has its roots in a root beer ad at the turn of the century. It was originally a barrel that held root beer and was used for commercial purposes, I think, for Hires Root Beer, which is an American believe it's an American brand, very old brand. But anyway, it moved to West Virginia in the 1930s. Has been used in a number of incarnations as a gift shop, as a tourist attraction. They love it in West Virginia. People see it, and it's just one of those quirky roadside things, roadside America, like the old Burma shave signs and quirky things. In New York, we have the big duck. It's a huge duck. That should be activated too. But this is the world's largest teapot. Be listening for W1T, W2T, W3T, all those signs that are around the country. This is the first year this very local event is going national. And there will be a bonus station, WV8 HAT. If you get all the stations, you have a full cup. If you get all stations. And the bonus, you have a full pot. This is going to be fun. This is in the spirit. A lot of the last man standing operators and the 13 colonies operators are really into this. I will be operating as W2T, and I will be fueled by some tea.
Now, this is so interesting to me. Have we gotten to the point in amateur radio that we will activate anything, any landmark? We will find a way to activate.
Yes.
Okay, so we're there. I mean, it's like, hey, there's an idea.
Yep.
The flag? No. The tree? No, the tree's a good one. Let's hold on to that. That gigantic teapot. We are going to activate that and create a special event. Like, I love it. We're just activate any good reason. Really, right?
This is the 17th year that this has been activated, but it is the first year that it's going coast to coast.
That's amazing.
And next year there are plans to get, of course, how can you leave out Great Britain on a tea-related event?
Right.
So there may be a GB, there may be a bonus station next year, but let's get through this year. Everybody, grab your tea, turn your rig on, and be listening.
Paul, is this your, I'm not even going to say cup of tea. Go ahead. Tell me about it. What are we doing here?
I'm completely behind this. In fact, I'm one of the W9T operators.
You're in it. You're actually a special event operator.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's fun. I mean, there's so many contests in ham radio that are just so incredibly competitive and focused, and people get really mean, that it's nice to have these. I mean, they just put a little bit of fun into the hobby when it's, it's like understand. The 13 colonies or Last Man Standing event. I was one of the ops for Last Man Standing, and this year I actually managed to get a complete full sweep for 13 colonies. So, it's fun. And this is, we're not competing really for awards or anything. It's like we're all just trying to work some contacts and download a fun certificate. So I'm completely with this.
I'm going to write a letter to Ryan. Dear Ryan, I'm sorry that the teacup special event followed your big brain. Please give me another couple minutes to make this right.
There is nothing else we could do to follow that. So we might
as well go to the teacup.
Might as well go with this.
Yep. I am thirsty. What else, Karen? That is hysterical and a fun special event. But I really do believe all we need is a really good excuse to operate, and we will just do it.
It doesn't take much to get us on the air. This is really, this actually was brewing among many of us to activate when we were finishing up Last Man Standing. And we said, we love doing this. Let's do something else. And this Philip, I'm sorry, Justin Shaw, W8LPN, in West Virginia said, hey, I need operators for this special event. What do you guys think? And being in New York, I will be W2T, and I will also be the bonus station, WV8 HAT for teapot. And go for it. Just do it.
You just need any reason to operate. It's hysterical. I love it. And Paul Brown will be And so will Karen be one of your net control, not net control, a special event operator for that. Story number 2, Paul, you've got something interesting as well to share. What's going on with you?
Story number 2, we'll take this one up a little more tech, a little more highbrow. NASA is always looking forward to the future, and one of the things they're looking at is sending satellites and rovers to much further places. And this one is, they're talking about sending it to Europa, which is one of Jupiter's moons. And the problem they have is that, from what they know, the atmosphere and the environment on Europa is extremely radioactive. And they're concerned that anything they send up there needs to be really, really ruggedized to be able to handle that. And what is interesting for us is, because, a very, very ruggedized antenna is a thing we all love. There is an engineer at NASA who has developed an antenna it's all metal, it's very lightweight, and it's a massive array of circularly polarized elements that will be able to survive that environment and communicate through it. And it's also very, very light, so it won't affect the takeoff or landing of the lander. So if you look at the article, we mentioned it in this week's Newsline. There's a link, I believe, to it in the script.
You ready to see that first picture? I can put that first picture up.
Yeah,
that's some artwork. Let's see. Well, there's the crew.
This is the team. I believe the engineer is the one that we talked about. I believe is the guy in the gray shirt. I'm not 100% sure, but that gold array, the square thing on top, that's the antenna, and it works up in the microwave range. And from what they're saying, it is going to be able to communicate directly back to Earth without a repeater. So that's 550 million miles, and it's going to be ruggedized to be resistant to the radiation on Europa. So it's amazing that right there is going to be able to talk 550 million miles back to Earth.
Wow.
I wonder if I can get them to design something for me here to work satellites.
Dear Ryan, this is a new section. Dear Ryan, Uncle Paul needs help.
Needs help.
I'll leave it there. He can figure out all the rest.
Exactly.
And there's another image there. Tell us about that one.
This is an artist's interpretation of what it would look like sitting on Europa with Jupiter in the background, and with that array just kind of aimed back at Earth. I mean, it's amazing that tiny little package would land on this moon and do some exploring, and that array, that little flat panel, which kind of looks like an LED lighting panel, is going to be able to communicate, they believe, directly back to Earth.
That's amazing. Karen, would you like to talk about this tiny little package?
I love this tiny little package. Who among us doesn't fantasize, for lack of a better word, about an indestructible, seemingly indestructible antenna, something that can withstand just about everything? The Europa mission is a ways off. They don't even have a lander built, but they wanted to be sure that an antenna was in place so that they could go ahead and build a lander knowing that it could communicate. They're looking perhaps to deploy the antenna to other missions in the meantime, but they know that it is capable of doing the job when the time comes to go to Europa. Look at that. That is just the coolest thing.
Isn't it beautiful? I don't know if you guys are like me, but I think antennas are just sexy. I know it sounds weird to say that they are beautiful, but
they
even
are hot.
No,
they're hot. They're hot. When we went to VOA the first time and we saw the antennas there, I think some of us were just, it was like being on sacred ground. We were speechless. An antenna. Oh, my bricks are back. We hit the bricks. But the bricks are back. But that's
when you know the segment's over. Hit the bricks.
But before we say goodbye, we would like to mention If you have not yet listened to yesterday's Amateur Radio Newsline, we have announced our 2021 Young Ham of the Year Award recipient. And that is the remarkable, speaking of remarkable young people, that is Faith Hannah Lee.
Wow.
She's our winner for this year. And awesome. She has also done amazing things at a very young age. And she comes from, most people know the Lees are a whole ham family. Mm-hmm. I mean, really a real life family. And they all do great things. And Faith Hannah was nominated, and our committee agreed that she's the one. So congratulations to Faith Hannah.
Right. She calls me Uncle Christian. And I'm very proud of that whole family. A homeschooled family. That's actually, I'm sure she's in college. I'm not sure of her age at the moment, but they were all in college. Again, when Paul and I and Steve, Sidecar Steve, and Don Wilbanks were all sharing the box of crayons, these kids were like in college. And I don't know how to relate to it. I'm just like, wow. Oh, I know. I've chewed through a pen cap just talking to Ryan. Dear Ryan, I've changed this habit of mine of eating crayons. You've inspired me beyond that. Well, great.
You're eating Sharpies now.
Yeah, Sharpies and bigger.
I think you're eating Sharpies.
It's permanent. So I figure if I just eat one, I won't have to eat another one since it's permanent. Now Ryan is getting reprimanded for coming on this show. Oh, your debut is with this nitwit?
Yeah.
I'll send an apology.
You're going to have to choose, son. You're going to have to choose your media appearances more carefully.
We have a report from Picayune, Mississippi, that Faith Hannah's nomination packet was over 40 pages long. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And as Uncle Don will say, the future of amateur radio is indeed in good hands. So the future in general, I hope, is in good hands with the next generation. Yep. Sorry, that was a what was the color? I can't remember the color. They've changed the color so much now. It was a navy
umber.
blue.
Burnt umber is always a good one.
Burnt umber was
what you had for breakfast. Yeah. Good deal. Well, thank you guys for coming by and talking about some of the news stories. The special event looks really fun. Any good excuse to get on the air is perfect for me. The artist depiction there of the antenna that's going out there and all that business. Great stuff. Thank you guys so much. We will come back and see you again next Saturday. 7-3, guys.
Absolutely.
7-3.
Made in America, shared worldwide. This is 100 Watts and a Wire.
If you're looking for a new way to become involved with the 100 Watts and a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com and click the EMI tab. EMI is short for Emergency Information. You can join the Emergency Information team and help us gather news, information, and resources during live emergency situations. Now, during live streams, a show producer may contact you or other members of the team to offer perspective, personal experience in emergency communications, and first-hand reports. If you're into preparedness, weather events, disaster response, consider joining this team. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click the EMI Team tab, and we'll get you on the list. 7-3, and back to the show. All right, there we are, and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire, and enjoy every Saturday we get to get together. If you're new, please put new in the chat. A nice group of people there to meet, a friendly group of people. Poke around the 100 Watts and a Wire YouTube channel, and if you see something in there, you dig it, perhaps subscribe. And poke around a little bit. There's a lot of Q&A in there about amateur radio. We do a preparedness segment, which we're going to talk about right now as I bring in my mentor and my teacher. He's helping me, and it can't be easy. It just cannot be easy. Here he is, but he teaches me how to be more self-reliant here in the 21st century, and we're using very practical solutions to what seems to be done. I mean, holy moly. And you're part of the Discord channel, and we've got an emergency news thing there, and that feed is just, it seems like, and I know that most people, or many people, don't want to see all of this. And then there's a group of us that really want to know what's going on in the world. And we've got flooding, we've got fires, we've got all sorts of everything going on. And I'm always like, Don, what do we do? And one of the first things that he'll tell me is we got to talk about risk assessment where you live. So we're going to pick that up today. And where, if you're kind of new to this, and I'd say that I've had a prep-minded, I'm prep-minded. There are things that I definitely do, and there's other things that I don't do enough of when it comes to this preparedness. But you're big into risk assessment and kind of starting at the root of that. So when I mention that to you, what comes to mind, and where should we begin?
Well, I'll say this. I share your laziness sometimes, right? There's all these things I think I should be doing, all of these preparedness methods and projects that I think I should be taking on, and then a cold beer at 5 o'clock wins the battle. Mm-hmm. But I'll say this. So you talked about risk assessment, and I'm going to go to the business world for a second because it's the place that gets it right. There's a couple different models, but for us, risk is generally looked at as a threat times a vulnerability times an impact. So there could be something that's bad, but it has no impact on you, so you're not necessarily at risk. Or there could be, the ultimate impact for us, loss of life. Perhaps the threat or the vulnerability isn't as high, but because of the consequences of that loss of life, you're a little bit more at risk. So what does that mean? It means taking a look at where you are, what's around you, what's most likely to happen. And let's just ground this at home for a second. What's most likely to happen in your neighborhood, in your community that could put you at risk?
Oh, you're talking to me. Oh, wow. We're on the fault. We've got the fault here. You're talking to me. Was that a question for me? I love this.
Well, it's a question for everyone, but
I
I'm
thought
just
we were
curious
doing
if you did your homework.
Oh, yes. I can tell you. I know that they have a refinery several miles away that will feed gasoline under the town that I live in that gets to the airport. We also have the rivers, Don, the rivers systems pushing things up and down. We've got major interstates like that. So when you ask me what are my risks, I'm like, I might want to think about moving but the one that got me, I was in my CERT class, and we started talking about this pipeline that ran from this refinery across and under the river, I guess. It comes across under the city I live in all the way to the airport. And I was like, oh no, that's a major thing. So for me, I don't know if you want to tackle that because there's so many different aspects there. And maybe it was a rhetorical question about thinking about where you live. But for me, that's what I'm looking at.
Well, and aren't you in New Madrid territory as well?
Exactly. And that's the one I think people don't talk about. That's the thing that, and that's the kind of thing I think that'll be the thing that happens. Yes, exactly. That for me that's high up on the list, but I think it's suppressed here locally. Like it's something we just don't talk about. And it's frightening.
Well, it's so far overdue that maybe if we ignore it, it'll go away.
Right.
Yeah. So
the 1,000-year storm, the 500-year, the 100-year storms.
So you listed a few, and my answer is always going to be, what are your reasonable outcomes for all of those? Are you staying in the house? Are you running like hell? Or something in between? Like, what makes sense? And obviously, you don't always get to answer that question right away. But generally speaking, if you took a textbook or a methodical look at, okay, I have a fuel line that's running under town. If it went bad, what would the impact be? Where am I in relation to it? Does this impact my ability to evacuate? If it would go bad, even on a modest level, would it be so bad that staying at home wouldn't be an option, so I'll have to evacuate? You start to ask the what ifs based upon each of those specific threats that you're concerned about. And by doing so, you're kind of getting into that outcome. So you know that, hey, if this goes bad, perhaps my house gets destroyed. So you know what that outcome is, and you know you're not staying. So maybe you're refining one of your evacuation plans or packing the truck with some more bug out gear. But at the end of the day, I think you have to take a look at, what does finished look like if something happens? Am I staying home? Do I need to get out? For how long can I survive? And then you start to see where the gaps are. So if it's something that's going to keep you in the house for, say, 2 weeks, and I know you're a gardener, and I know you have some food thrown around the house in places, but that aside, depending on where you are and what your situation is, if you're going to be homebound for 2 weeks, can you meet your needs? Can you eat for 2 weeks? Can you drink for 2 weeks? Can you provide for sanitary considerations for 2 weeks? And then from there, that's when you see, well, this is what I have. This is where I think I might need to be. So how do I get from A to B and close that gap?
So most people, the reason this came up, Don and I came up with the idea of hour 73, and we're taught to prepare for the first 72. And so hour 73 is like, what are you going to do now? And I hear you using the 2-week variable. Is that a standard, or is that sort of, I know there are some preppers that are like, I'm 3 months, I'm 1 year.
Sure.
For me, I'm normal. I don't know. But is 2 weeks a reasonable amount of time to have those things that you mentioned?
Yeah, so I'm careful with that discussion because you don't know everyone's means. You don't know everyone's ability. I say the further down the road you can be prepared, the better you're going to be regardless. I did a security assessment that involved somebody who has 23 years of food in an underground shelter.
No.
So, I mean, I don't... At that point, I think if I'm underground for about 22, 23 years, I'm hoping that someone just takes me at that point.
You don't want to live through that, right?
No, but hey, you know what? To each their own.
Sure.
Far be it for me to judge. So yeah, I mean, I'll say this, right? We talk 72 hours, ready.gov. It's the classic campaign. But as disasters get worse, as the impact of the disasters are greater, sometimes 72 hours isn't enough. And again, you said it, right back to the impetus for why we called it hour 73. Like, what do you do after those first 72 hours that most of us have been arguably conditioned to be able to do, right? So I think we're all generally comfortable with the fact that we could make it 3 days in the house. That's the baseline. And I know mileage might vary depending where folks are in the process, but long term, I'm looking at ways of how I can dig it out for a couple of weeks. And that's not just with supplies on hand. It's also, okay, if I'm here and I'm homebound for a couple of weeks, maybe I have a week and a half of water, but now how am I collecting water? How am I purifying water? How am I storing water? So it's not just what do you have in your basement or in that closet that will get you to point B. It's how do you sustain that as you move forward. So maybe I have 2 weeks of water, but maybe a week in and I don't know how long this is going to last. I think, well, crap, I need to find ways to refill those stores, if you will.
And the cases I gave you with the fault and the pipeline that's moving from the refinery, these are all man-made sort of things. Now, I can have things happening along the river, along the highway systems, man-made. What about tornadoes? I mean, I'm in Tornado Alley also. We're more inclined to get that come through here weather-wise. Is it the same sort of thought process for you when it becomes sort of these, I don't want to say natural disasters. A lot of these things are, but anyway, tornadoes, things that are happening outside of a man's switch or a loose screw.
Yeah, so, I mean, I look at it the same. I think you always want to have supplies, the things, the stuff that you need to make it through the day. We are seeing more and more tornadic activity in my part of the Mid-Atlantic than I ever saw. So now I'm starting to wrap my head around, hey, like, what do we do if a tornado would roll through? Now, granted, I know the Midwest kind of says hold my beer to that because we see EF zeros and ones. But still, that can certainly damage a house. The difference there is, so you're prepared, right? You've built your supply house. You've got stuff in the basement. You've even created space in the basement as a quasi tornado shelter. And then the roof is taken off or your second floor is taken off. So you have a new set of headaches. So now you're getting into those considerations. Okay, do I need to provide some sort of temporary emergency shelter? Do I have enough or access to enough to secure my house? And again, we're speaking about damage outcomes that you can't predict. Whether it's a couple shingles blow off or your entire second floor blowing off are two disparately different discussions. Worst case, you're probably not staying in that house if your second floor is missing. So then the discussion is, can I get out of there? Can I take what I need, what's valuable to me, and head somewhere else, whether it's family, and 99.99% of what we discuss, the rest of the quote unquote real world is still alive and well. So it doesn't become Mad Max. We're not in the Thunderdome all of a sudden after a tornado. There's places we can go. There are insurance agents and companies that are going to come down and start to fix the damage. I always favor, and look, I don't look at it from conspiracy theory, but I always theory the big one. Like, what happens if something is so extensive that I'm going to be here for a bit, plus there are no support structures around me, so no one's coming to help. And that's, I figure, and at the end of the day, this is no different than when we do professionally. If you prepare for the quote-unquote big one, then you can handle the little ones that come along the way.
You mentioned being out here and the hold my beer thought. I think the just being out here, I don't know that being out here, we may see more. I don't know that we're particularly prepared better for it, because you still see the things and it's like, woo, they just come through here. So I think that, yeah, we do see more volume. You would think we've gotten better. But my point is, I believe that a lot of people think that FEMA's coming to help you. And that, I think we've talked about this before, is that they may, but chances are there's so many more disasters and problems and issues that the government has to work with that's the whole training for the first 72 hours. The reality is they may not be coming, and they may not be coming soon. Out here is how I see.
Yeah, so you have to expect this. For federal intervention, the scope of the disaster has to be such that there's enough of an impact. Technically, there are threshold levels that states have to meet in terms of damage in order to get a presidentially declared disaster declaration. So you might not get it, or because the way it works, and they do it county by county, your county next door might be wiped off the map, but maybe a tenth of your county suffers the same damage. You might see them getting immediate attention and aid, but you're not getting it because you haven't reached a threshold. So not only that, but if you look at it, disasters have become so increasingly expensive that the federal government, quite frankly, can't support disaster response anymore. 2 or 3 years ago, FEMA changed their strategic plan to basically go all in on pushing preparedness back down as low as possible to the individual and households so that we can handle what we need to handle for those first X amount of hours, whether it's supplies, whether it's maintaining adequate insurance. So I would say in combination with that, the other theme thematically that I see from the federal government is the investment in mitigation. So the equation has been, and it's more than $6 now, but the equation had been up to now that $1 invested in mitigation projects saves $6 in recovery. So if you spend that kind of money preparing your house with, like, say, hurricane ties or a tornado safe room, those mitigation type things that we can do to keep water away from the house, or creating a safe and defensible space in your yard if you're in wildfire territory, that money spent on that end saves a whole heck of a lot of money later after the disaster roared through and you're rebuilding.
Oh, man, thank you. So it's so rich. The takeaways, a couple of takeaways we should think about, and I'm going to broad stroke them here, is that you got to have your risk and threat assessment from wherever you live.
Sure.
See, we could go through, we could go on the Discord at some point and maybe open this up and take calls, and people could ask you questions about this. Some people live in the mountains, some people live here, some people live in the cities. And so everything would change, maybe scenario based, but your big message today is have that risk assessment where you live, think about these things. Another big one is don't think that necessarily FEMA's coming to save you. They may not be coming to save you, or they would love to maybe save you, but you really need to save yourself. What am I missing here? Is there any other parts? We got a lot of little specifics in there, but the takeaway message for today.
So, no, I think those are two great points. And I would say, as you look at those risks and hazards, you have to figure out what finish looks like. So what are the outcomes that you're expecting to survive? And survive, I mean in the nebulous sense. So not just staying alive, but being able to provide for your family. So figure out what that outcome is and figure out what resources you need to be at that outcome. And then figure out what you have. And if you don't have what you need, you have a gap. And now you got to look at ways to close that gap. And we can talk about those ways, and we have before, whether it's individual-based, community-based, and there's a whole host of ways we can do it. There was a comment that I think is salient here. It says, if you haven't prepared, it's the time to start. You do as much as you can as the budget allows. And what I'd like to see moving forward, especially in follow-up discussions or if we do it in Discord, and I think we've seen it a little bit, is what are the tools that you all are using to figure out what's bad in your neighborhood? So what are those risks and hazards? And there's a lot of great websites out there that show you floodplains, stream gauges, weather maps. I mean, we can run down the whole gamut, but I'm curious what everyone's doing to figure out where the bad stuff is in their community.
Yeah, in the Discord now, if you go, 100 Watts and a Wire has a Discord channel now. It's small, but it was meant to be a vessel for emergencies. I'm also finding we're getting a lot of amateur radio operators who may not need such preparedness or heavy topics in their threads. So I put the Discord in there for you if you wanted to join us over there. And there's an emergency news channel and there's a preparedness channel. So we can discuss and have a dialogue within that without, disrupting everyone's happiness over in the amateur radio side. So we're, like Don would say, we've made a couple of buckets there where you can take weather and talk about that. But you're welcome to do that. Don is my preparedness teacher. I'm really lucky to have him. Patient guy, serves as my stunt double on movies. But here we'll take the hat and put it on, not to confuse you. See that? See, the big stuff comes. You got to jump over a truck. Okay, I can't do that, Don. Don, you're in. But
I'm not in for that either.
Yeah, we're all too old. We need another one.
I can't jump over a phone book.
Can we just talk about Ryan for a second? My new feature is called Dear Ryan. I'm just going to write to Ryan and tell him my problems and see if he's got a solution. Maybe there's an app. It's the Christian Has a Problem app. I know you were here through his. Hopefully you were able to watch and catch that young man. But holy cow! At age 13, why didn't we weren't doing this kind of stuff? We weren't creating things that helped firefighters and save the planet. I had underoos. Yeah, I had underoos. Most of the people might not remember those, but I felt like a superhero. Alas,
I hear you still do.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a Dear Ryan. That was just a joke.
Yeah. So, at 13, I'm sure I had a reasonable accomplishment in life. I just damn if I can remember what it was.
You graduated from the 7th grade, which, back in Baltimore, that's a big deal. I'm from Baltimore. Just to let everybody know, I'm busting his chops and my own. That's a Baltimore joke.
There it is.
That's right.
Hey, look, and God bless a kid like that, right? I love the folks that are coming up behind us that absolutely keep us on our toes. Keep pushing forward. It's an amazing story. So,
no doubt. Hey, enjoy your family. You're amazing kids, and we'll do this again next week. Join us in the Discord. You leave comments here below the videos, and we'll put this segment out this week. That way, you can talk about it and your areas. Maybe we can get into some specific handling. Take some calls. We'll do that kind of stuff.
I'd love to hear what people are concerned about. Let's chat about it. Because if we don't have the answer based upon our experience, I bet you we can find the answer with the group that we have in Discord.
Yeah, and you may have some solutions. And this is for everyday people. Everyday people. We don't need to be a doom and gloomer to prepare ourselves a little bit better. And I think 2020 was a real wake-up call for a lot of people who were on the fringes. Not to go completely overboard, but to think about shortages, and I can't get this. I can't get A or B, and how do I, and those thought processes. Thank you, Brother Don. I appreciate you, man. We will catch up again next week.
Sounds good. 73. Have a great weekend.
73. We'll see Don in the Discord. Name here is Christian. Appreciate you being here. Saturday mornings dedicated to the flagship show. This started in 2015. Hard to believe now we've been running this long. And just in September, took it to YouTube. So if you're interested to see how the show progresses and how it's made, you're welcome to join us. Here comes trouble. This is the back half, of the show where Sidecar Steve joins us. He spent 2 weeks in Hawaii, and the people were. I mentioned that the young lady who joined us, Frankie, last week, young lady, and super brilliant, funny, and all the things that, frankly, you're not. Yeah. I was like, so we're firing him and bringing Frankie on, my new co-host. And people were like, no, you son of a... You can't
Sidecar got kicked to the side of the road.
I could feel. I was like, wait.
He fell off the motorcycle.
Wait. Yeah, Sidecar Steve is back and alive and well, but was vacationing. There he is. We can never forget our partnership. This was the year 1956. Steve and I, we won first place, number 8, based on Cal Ripken's, my tribute to Cal Ripken. My helmet is cool. Look at Steve's. He said, I don't want a helmet so tall. I'll just do this for round one, my goggles, and the right hand. The magic is in the right hand. So everything is... don't talk about how I got so much strength in the right hand. But welcome back, buddy. It's good to see you and your new attire. You feel rested, or that you could have maybe done a third week?
Oh, I easily could have done a third week.
Really?
Oh, yeah. No, to go swimming every day, and it's cooler there than it is here. So, yeah, no, I'm glad to be home and get back into swing of things. So, the last couple of days have been a lot of catch up at work, and so it's good to be here.
Okay, so we have a lot to catch up on now. You were here. We talked to Ryan. My new feature will be called Dear Ryan, where I write him letters to figure out exactly how to proceed at this port of life. But in all seriousness, as a firefighter, this young man at age 13, actually before that, he's 13 now, and 2018 is when he was moved to create this technology and this innovation. Any thoughts on Ryan in general?
Oh, it's great. It was just, I had a lot of questions I wanted to ask him, but he's a fantastic kid. Our future is well in hand with guys like Ryan. And, one of the things he pointed out was the information to get out to us on the lines and to the IC is where's the fire moving? And we're kind of in playing catch up. So having this mesh network of sensors is a big plus. And that has basically, when he was talking about having this, I just started thinking, well, that's what we used to have, but in human form back in the day when we had the old fire lookouts. And here on the West Coast and in the forested areas, anywhere along the Rockies, we used to have these fire lookouts that were manned by people that's all they did. That their sole job was to look for smoke, and that was that first contact before we had all the satellites and everything. And now we've taken the human element out of it, and then put in as technology comes along. So a great concept. Is like, damn, why didn't I think about that sooner? But good for him, and getting grants, especially from the Navy. I mean, as it was brought up in the chat, there's Fortune 500 companies or Fortune 100 companies that can't get a grant like that from the Navy. So good for you, Ryan. And it's just at 13, 14, I wasn't thinking of things like that, what Ryan's going. My mind was in the 3 Bs, and we'll talk about that later. But
by the way, Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, that's go ahead.
I was going to say his website, all of that is in the description of the show. If you're a subscriber on YouTube, you'll see that there. Check out the interview I did with him. There's so many things to talk about, and even even challenging him in the technical. But what about if this happens? A lot of this is based on some Wi-Fi. He's got solar. There's so many layers to what he's doing. But just super impressive, and I'd like to dig in a little bit more, and hopefully over time he'll come back, and we can explore that stuff together or watch him build something. Really inspiring.
Well, he's already touched kind of in the RF world, dealing with a mesh network, and so he's there. He's on his way now. Whether he has the time and the energy, which for him it's like he can probably sit down in one setting and crank out all 3 tests and just get it all done, and he'll go from 0 to extra in an afternoon. So
no doubt.
But
I'd love to get him on board for sure. I want to invite. We did this the other day. We had a special coverage of some tornadic. That's the right word, activity happening through New Jersey and Philadelphia area. And we went live, and we got some special reports through Discord, so we carried the audio through. So anybody who actually is a member of the Discord, anybody can be. I've dropped the link for you in the chat area, but you can come in if you'd like to. Look for the studio phone line, and you can go in there. If you have a question or something you want to talk about, we can do that here, and I'll drop in there at the moment. Just wait for me to call you, because I think it could be too many people get to chatting in there. It could be a little nutty, but I'm going to put that in now. There's a couple of questions. You want to take some questions, Steve, from...
Yeah, we'll take a question. I got one other comment that I noticed in the picture from NASA, and the one gentleman that was in the gray shirt, the checkered shirt, and I kind of liked, if you bring him up, and it's, the guy there on the right, I like the Gene Kranz haircut tribute. Nice.
That is a flat top right there.
That's a flat top. So good for him, honoring Gene Kranz, who was I think he was kind of like the head dude there in Houston at Mission Control, and has been in the space program for many, many years, since retired. But love the flat top. So good on you, buddy.
So, remember Leanne? This was somewhere around November time, Thanksgiving. Boy, I'm thinking it was probably 2019. You remember she had a young, her son was licensed, and there was some power questions, and she's a military family. Well, I spoke to her.
Involved in the Cub Scouts. Her boys were heavily involved in the Cub Scouts, I remember.
So she comes on. I was on crutches because I fell out of my shed. This is stuff to... And soon after that, she really jacked up her foot. I don't know if she had to get surgery, but we were joking this week about, you should come back on the show. She's in Alaska now, and we'd have to.
They went to Alaska?
They had to. He had a military husband, and he's stationed now in Alaska. Well, Alaska just had this earthquake. It was not close to her, but I checked in on her just to see how she's doing. Joked about we'd have to come on and we'd both be wrapped in bubble wrap, because apparently whenever we get together we're injured and hurting ourselves. But she has a question. So, and we talked about it a little bit, and I told her, I said, I'll promise I'll talk about it with Steve on the show, and we can get into it a little bit here. We got some other questions too, but this one came up. She's going to be in minus 40 degree temperatures. She has enough space probably for a 20 and a 40 meter off-center dipole, something like that, or a dipole in that range in her yard. It's a little bit of a smaller, but maybe on a diagonal. The trick is, in minus 40 degree temperatures, we talked about a pass-through, some way to get into the house, and they're not allowed to drill holes, and I talked about maybe a pass-through. Is there a way without coax? You see, my point is, if she does a pass-through, she's still got that windows kind of up and wedged, and that's probably not going to be good for her. Is there a way to make an antenna, of course, with, say, 14-gauge wire or ladder line that can be closed in that door? What do you think about if you're in the situation, minus 40-degree temperatures, but you don't want to have a thick coax coming through the wall or can't? Any thoughts on that?
That one is
it's tough, right?
Shoot. There's my mind's going through many ways, but MFJ, I think they make it, or someone, they have a little coax adapter. It has two balance on each end essentially, and it converts your 50 ohms to a ladder line or twin lead, and then it's really flexible, and you can kind of smush it through the window, and then it comes back to 50 ohms. Problem is, it's really limited on power. I think 100 watts is maximum, if that, but just very inefficient, pretty lossy. That's the tough one. So yeah, she's in base housing, and they don't want any holes drilled, and it's going to be the windows are going to be minimum double paned, if not triple paned. They're up there in Alaska, so it's going to be pretty tough to get in there. But I would imagine, I know phone cables or cable TV is probably getting through the wall, but the base authorities or housing authorities have taken care of that. So, wow, that's going to be a tough one.
I thought about my sort of Carolina Wyndham, the one that's 3 wires that they're soldered together at the top, and I use it for my portable operations. I was thinking, and I don't know how the winds are where she will be, but I know that temperature. But I dropped down a single wire, 14 gauge or whatever it may be. I wonder if pulling that through a window and shutting it's going to have too much an effect. But that was probably what I would do. I know the pass-through is our gut reaction is to, do the pass-through, but that's not going to keep that cold. That's a wedge in the window.
The only thing I can really think of just right off the top of my head is if you got some, it would be styrofoam. It's maybe, I don't know, 6 inches or whatever, that has wood on each side. They use them in building. You kind of, or a rigid insulation that you can drill a hole through, have your cable go through that, and then you'd have the sliding window that would butt up against that, and then you kind of have to somehow insulate that to keep the cold from coming into the structure. So that's about the only thing I can think of, is if you had some thick foam insulation, some rigid board, you can kind of get away with that, and then you'll have to secure the window to and just a simple 2x2 or 1x1 down at the bottom, just to keep the window from opening up. So I mean, there's a couple of ways you can go through it, but you're dealing with cold temperatures. If minus 40, I wonder if are they up in Fairbanks?
I think in that area. I think in that area.
So I would imagine reaching out to the local hams in the area, and they might have some ideas. They obviously would be better equipped on answering those and how to work around, because Leanne's situation is not the first and won't be the last with dependents that are living in base housing up there.
Years ago, I did an interview. We were focusing and featuring clubs because it was a couple years back, and there's a club up there near Fairbanks with an interesting name, Skinny Dick's. Skinny Dick's is I think it's like a restaurant bar type of deal, but they've also turned it into a club, and it had a handful of hams, and it's in that area. Might be worth looking that up. Also in our chat here, Don, lost it. He says Comet makes a flat coax capable of 100 watts.
That's what I was thinking of as Comet. So yeah, I keep thinking MFJ, but Don is correct. It's Comet that makes that, and it's a little short piece, and it has a balance. Basically, what it's doing, it's just a transformer on each end, and you're just doing an impedance conversion from 50 ohms to 300 ohms or whatever the feed line the twin lead is, and then back to 50 ohms. But it's very limited in power. So that's it. Thanks, Don.
Yeah. Jeffrey also says that he uses a thick piece of foam and runs a line through that and then close the window on that. It works well for him. And he's up in the Northeast. So a couple good options. I said, we'll bring that up on there. I think pressing it down, make sure you get that window shut and somehow passing through.
And with the foam, you could probably, indent in there as, some sliding windows have kind of that U notch or W notch, depending on the window manufacturer. So I think the rigid foam is a good start, and then make sure it's insulated. Just keep the draft down, and then where the cable goes through the foam, I would just probably hit it with some expandifoam once it's all set through there, and once you're done, you just take it out, and everything's back to normal.
The product is called Comet Antennas CTC-50M, Leanne. So there you go. Thank you for that.
So there's an option.
Mr. Butler. And members of the Discord, if you wanted to ask a question, you're welcome to join the studio phone line, and we'll try to bring you up one by one and see how that goes. You ready for another question here that was sent in through an email or our Facebook or the Discord? Here's a question. What does it mean to load up a gutter? Probably a new ham here.
Loading up a gutter is just you're using the gutter, your aluminum or your metal gutter, as an antenna. So just think of as the gutter as the wire in place. It's in place of the wire antenna that wraps around your house. And what you're doing is you're just using the metal gutter as a random length wire, and you're hooking up your coax to it, and basically tuning up the gutter as an antenna, and that's the term, loading up the gutter.
Now, I've never done this before, but we've talked to people on our nets. We've had people load up cow fences, things of long stretch, 6 feet high cattle fences, or whatever they may be.
Bob wire. They pretty much anything and anything that is conductive. People have loaded it up. Slinkies has always been something that was done many years ago. I've heard stories of guys taking the old metal spring out of a mattress or whatever and loading that up as, now whether it's true or not, that's, old wives' tale. But I have personally worked someone in Kansas that loaded up their gutter on 20 meters, and they had a pretty respectable signal on the air. So if it's metal, it can radiate.
Now, can you do that somehow doing it through a terminal or like an alligator clip or clamp like that? How do you connect to that?
You just take like a little sheet metal screw, and you take like the center conductor of your coax, so down at the bottom of the rain, the spout, the rain gutter spout, and you hook you just put a ring terminal on the center conductor of the coax, hook that to the gutter, and then take the shield and maybe drive a ground rod into the Mother Earth there, and away you go. Now, you can also do it up at the eaves itself, and if there was a gap, you could turn around and have that as a shield on one and another one on the other, and if there was a piece of plastic in the middle, and you can make your rain gutter as like a dipole. So I mean,
you see that? I can totally see it. You run it from and then they run it from the outs. This one goes this way.
So you talk about your windom, your 3-wire windom. Well, hook your coax at the bottom of the rain spout, or the downspout, I mean, and then there's your 3-wire windom, and off you go. So I mean, it's just replace the wire with the gutter, and then let your mind go to town and go from there.
This is fun. We should do a project.
As long as you keep your mind out of the gutter.
Oh, interesting. Good one. Hard for you. You will not be there long, but or either would I, I'm sure. You know what that reminds me of? Something bad. No, that might be an interesting little thing that we could do as a community, is to take videos of ourselves trying to load up our gutters. Just short couple minutes and see how it works. Tune it up, see if it works. I'm down. I've got one that shoots off the back of the house here, and if the bugs don't take me away, I might try that. Let's load up our gutters. Maybe we'll work on something like that.
Worked all gutters. That we
Worked
go.
all gutters. Oh, we didn't talk about
another
the
special
teapot.
event station. I mean, as we were talking about the teapot, I was starting to think, hey, wait a minute here. We need to have, we had, national parks on the air and all this other stuff. How about worked all microbrews? We got thousands of breweries in the nation. Let's have a year-long special event, and you just go from one brewery to the other, and you work your you set up your these breweries on the air. Let's call it that.
Breweries on the air.
The air. Breweries on the air. And I can imagine the longer you stay at the brewery, the more comical your contacts are going to become.
It's going to be great. It will be great. I worked 4 people. 2 of them, well, that was a fight. No contact. No, I kind of like that. Yeah, I mean, you got to think outside the box here. It's only an excuse.
Exactly. It's an excuse to get on the air, and let's have some beer while we're at it.
Let's have some beer and load up our gutters.
And then let's also be inclusive, and our folks that are into the grape. So let's have worked all wineries, and
gotcha.
It'll
Vino
be very popular.
on the air.
Vino on the air.
I like
and
it.
And then we can expand on that. Bourbon on the air.
We will own the adult beverage activation. So we need some really good computer people to help us keep track of how this gibberish goes. But from the minds of nitwits to, dear Ryan, apologies for the adult beverage. That's my new segment, Dear Ryan. Well, thank you for that question. That's interesting. I never knew how to technically load it up. I was always thinking an alligator clip or something like that.
That's another way. I mean, people have used alligator clips or whatever. I just rather use just a simple sheet metal screw and get a good contact there.
All right. Let's take another one. We've got some time and see what's happening here. All right. It's been a while. Of all of the contacts you've made, which is your favorite and why?
Oh, wow.
Does your mind go right to DX for you? Like, is it like a distance thing? What was the first thing that popped in? Or was it a person?
It's all over the place. But, yeah, DX is one of them. I think my first Middle East contact was a one that stands out. And I was just a really simple, basic station. It wasn't this station that I did it. This was many years ago. Just a barefoot 100-watt radio and a simple inverted V dipole, and I made a contact with an A51 station. It turned out to be he was an American that was in the Middle East operating there, but it was quite the thrill. I go back to my very first contact as a novice and on 40 meters, and still remember shaking while trying to send out Morse code on a J38 straight key. So that one I still remember, and but never got a chance to talk to any famous, super famous people like King Hussein or Barry Goldwater and others like that. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and it's hard to pick out any one particular one.
Yeah, I agree. I think distance is my, it's a new antenna, or I'm new to HF, and I've told the story a few times about working New Zealand, 5:30 in the morning here. I don't remember what type of year, what season this was, but I was on the Drake, had it turned on. She drifts a little bit. After about 45 minutes, she'll kind of lock in, and I heard the guy in New Zealand, I at best was putting out 100 watts. I mean, that's all I was going to ever get out of that situation. It's still here. And it was a working thing. Like, he dug me out. He made others wait for me. It was one of those where you hear the ops, the 0 station only. And I remember he said something like, basically, if you step on my QSO with this guy, I'm not putting you in my log. And I was like, oh. But I was like, Kilo Zero. Again, he dug me out and he did a lot of heavy lifting. But I remember this was one of my first, and it was like little things like Mexico. I'm like, Mexico. I'm going to work Mexico and I'll try to work it. New Zealand came and I jumped out. Like after he confirmed it, I put the D104 down and jumped out of the chair, like in the spot, like thinking, whoa, that is the coolest, because of the distance, Plus he moved people aside from me just to work me. And he could have said, I can't hear you. Just call me in 10 minutes, or, and I'd have been like, oh, all right.
Oh, yeah.
But he made it work. He made it. So that for me is probably the top. People-wise, I don't... everybody's interesting. You know what I mean? I don't see like, I got to work a famous ham or, what that even means. It's distance, and then like 160 contest comes around. All the crap I put up with this antenna throughout the year, and then I don't know, it's January or whatever the single sideband 160 is, and just seeing where I can go. Oregon, like, I made it out to Oregon. That's cool. Like, so yeah, it's usually distance as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, another contact just came into mind. It just there's always one of my favorite contacts on the air is our buddy Phil.
Right.
And I got a chance to work a gentleman. He was in the Huntington Beach area down where Ryan is. And he was first licensed in 1936. He was 93 at the time. And if I didn't think he was that old. I mean, the guy was sharp as a tack. And we got a chance to chat on 20 meters. And just the stories that I got to hear him and the questions I was able to ask him on what he saw on how the hobby has changed from back in 36, building all his equipment, the testing that he had to go through and what he had to do, then the period through the war when amateur radio kind of went dark, and then coming back on the air, and then all the way up till, this was a couple years ago that we had this QSO, how he watched the technology change just in our hobby alone, let alone everything else that has changed and the space race, going to the moon and things like that. So those contacts really, I like those, talking to our seasoned amateurs that have been in the hobby for a long time, and getting that information, because once they're gone, we lose that, and hearing stories of what they went through to in the hobby and what they have accomplished, whether it's just getting on the air or building equipment or whatever. I just love hearing it, and it I started thinking of Phil here and how I just always love hearing him on the air, and as active as he is at 80, I think he's 83 now, 83, 84, and working, guys like that. Yeah, we talk about the hobby is full of old timers and a lot of old guys, but man, there's a lot of history there, and we need to keep tapping into that and learning those experiences that these guys have done, before us. I mean, we got it easy today versus what some of these guys went through.
That older demographic is also the demographic you don't hear a lot of the complaining from. Of course, they're enjoying every day they can on the radio right now. But when you find out they're older, I'm talking in their 80s and up, there's a different thing in their mind where I think they're just enjoying this technology, that they can actually still do it. They're capable of doing it. They're not complaining about the changes or the modes. It sort of washes away and it's just a different perspective from some that we often hear that kind of, get off my yard. It's not those guys. And Phil, we talked about him. He had half of his antenna down. He's near the ocean, up near Boston, in Massachusetts, but closer to the ocean. At the time we started hearing from him every week, 82, 83 years old now, however he may be, just the happiest, nicest guy, and everything stands by when he calls in. You may have a big pile up, and he'll call, and he'll talk to you. It may be 6-7 minutes, and everybody's patiently standing by, and there's a respect and a reverence for that age demographic. And Phil just seems to be our guy now, who's in that bracket. Oh, and he knows Steve, and he's, I'll tell Christian this. And last week, little story, wasn't really funny, because Paul, N2HYG, is a net operator. He's taking calls, and he called for Phil specifically to give him the door, like, I will call for you, and you come. You don't have to try to get through this pile up or whatever, or wait for the numbers, however he was running. No comeback. And I have to tell you, Steve, my stomach dropped because he's always there. You know, he's always. And luckily, later on, he called in. But that moment where he didn't come back, boy, I was like, oh, man. But that's how you know these people make an impact in your life. And we've never even met him face to face.
No.
But
we
we'll
just
pause
talked to
the
him
net
on
to
the
get
air.
him in, you know.
So
there you go.
He's very real special to me, and I love hearing him on the air. Even if I don't have a chance to talk with Phil, I just happy to hear his voice on the air, and just hear he's. If you get a chance, just join us on the nets on Sunday evenings, and listen out for Phil there, and hopefully you'll get the same enjoyment that I have when you get to hear Phil. And if you ever get a chance to chat with him on the air, please do. The guy's just incredible.
He's a military veteran who, you know, he a great little story, and he gives you little pages of it each time. You learn a little bit more, Phil, but he understands that I probably need to keep it quick because you have others waiting, and we're all like, no, take your time.
No,
what you're saying, it can teach us some things. So
but
thank you for that question.
And if you get on the air, find these guys and just chat with them. They want to tell you their story, and ask questions, because this is going to be sometimes the last chance you're going to have to chat with some of these guys. And unfortunately, you know, something happens where they can't get on the air anymore. And these guys are national treasures. And so if you get a chance, chat with them, and don't worry about some of the other stuff and the get off my lawn kind of crowd. They're younger. They're in their 70s.
They're just, you know,
60s and 70s, and they're just grumpy. But once you hit 80, you're just kind of like, hey, I'm just happy to be here.
I'm at my own home. Steve and I secretly were developing a plan because we knew half of his antenna was down. It was during the pandemic. He's in a very vulnerable age group, and we knew that, but we were actively putting plans together to go to Massachusetts to fix his antenna, which I don't know how he got in with that crazy signal with half of it down. But it was amazing. But we never had to do that because a firefighter who lives across the street helped him hang his antenna back up. So we were all like, okay, cool. Okay, back to normal. Everything's cool. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Appreciate you guys taking the time. I know we went into a little bit of overtime today, but a great young man at the top, inspiring the work that he's doing for sure. And I can't wait to watch this, the progress. You know, and it was the compassion. He's a young guy with compassion for people and for animals. What can I possibly do? He said the animals, they didn't do anything. You know, they didn't do anything. They don't deserve this. Sweet boy. Thank you for that. And then next thing you know, he's developing this technology to help guys like you out there to detect these things sooner, so that window can be a little wider in preparation. So good to have him here. The Teacup special event, love it. We've created one to rival that now, called Breweries on the Air.
Breweries on the Air.
And maybe even Wineries on the Air, or Vino on the Air for those that enjoy that. Bourbon on the Air. It's another Boda. Not a good name. If we could get away from these Oda names, That'd be good. Let's do that. Let's come up with a new crafty name. But we will load up our gutters. We're going to do. This is our hobby and our service. Let's just have some fun. That's what I want to do. That's where I want to be at this age right now, Steve. Mm-hmm. More fun. Let's enjoy ourselves more. What else? What did we miss? Thank you to everybody who came in the chat today. I put the link for the Discord channel. It's small, just like the channel is small, and there are different sections, different buckets, if you will, for radio, amateur radio, preparedness. If you're into emergency stories, all these sorts of things in there. We've developed an EMI team that helps me do these special coverage. We did that a couple nights ago when Uncle Paul and Pastor Joe were in the path of tornadoes, doing firsthand reports on that situation. So lots of stuff to get into. Right now, go out and look at your gutters, unless it's raining, and load them up. Let's load them up. What do we miss, Steve?
Excellent. I think we got it all. So don't forget to join us at Discord if you don't know anything about it or know where to find us. Just go into the chat here. Christian has put up some links to the Discord group, and it's a pretty low key, just to have fun and enjoy, and come and join us there in the Discord group.
Yeah, Phil.
And we have the studio phone line, and last week in Hawaii, we got into the studio phone line. So if you ever want to get in and have just kind of a little conference call or group call, just get into the studio phone line and just go from there. You can set your system up for a Vox, or there's a PTT option, and but the audio is pretty good, and it's right there. And so
you were talking about like many people who don't get to check into the net. We're live streaming during the net, so usually I'll fire up the engines, we'll live stream, we'll watch the operators work. But also, if you don't have a radio, or maybe you're traveling, we also have now the Discord audio. We can bring you in and kind of share that evening with you as well.
There's our a community that only have technician class license. We always talk about HF nets and everything. Well, we're not doing a 10-meter net right now, but there's also folks that don't have HF equipment and can't because of where they live, HOAs, or their circumstances. Right. And here's another possibility where we can do a little group call or gathering on Discord. We'll have to kind of vet that out a little bit and try to figure out how to go. But so there's, something else we can probably leverage and get some more interest going. So, but just come and join us on Discord.
All right. You got it.
Check it out.
You got it. 7-3, everybody. We appreciate you coming. Thanks to everybody from Amateur Radio Newsline. Thanks to Sidecar Steve and Ryan, and specifically you guys for being there. We appreciate you and enjoy our time we spend together on Saturdays. Catch up with you real soon. 7-3, friends.
7-3, all.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsindawire.com.